Thank you so much for staying with us on IBrand Daybreak. We delve into other issues now, especially the news making the rounds on every newspaper this morning, talking about Doyin Okupe, who is the DG of the Peter Obi Datti Presidential Campaign Council. It's been said that a money laundering charge has been, of course, thrown out of the court, and that's because he was able to pay the 13 million fine that was leveled against him. A former senior special assistant to ex-president Goodluck Jonathan, Doyin Okupe, was on Monday found guilty of receiving over 200 million naira cash from former National Security Advisor Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired. He was therefore sentenced to 2 years imprisonment by Justice Ijeoma Ojukwu of a federal high court in Abuja, with an option of 500,000 naira fine on each of the 26 count charges for which he was found guilty. Delivering her judgment, Justice Ojukwu held that Okupe, who is the first defendant in the suit filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, violated the Money Laundering Act. Well, according to the judgment now, he has been released, and that's because he was able to pay the 30 million naira fine. That's against the 200 million naira money laundering. And one would wonder why there's no commensurate judgment to the, the crime committed.
Well, that's because he was told to pay 500,000 naira fine per charge, per count of the charges that he was found guilty, which is 26 in total. So that explains the 13 million naira fine. And he had a deadline, 4:30 p.m.
Yes,
luckily enough, he was able to pay. So he's escaped that quite all right. But you look at the Money Laundering Act and you realize that how effective has it been in terms of curbing money laundering? Again, the act stipulates that an individual cannot receive more than 5 million naira in cash without going through a financial institution. For organizations, 10 million. We know quite well that during in politics, don't let me even use during campaigns. In politics, lots of monies exchange hands, and it's way more than the limits that the Money Laundering Act permits.
Now, they even use the dollar currency.
Exactly. Even if you use naira, if they don't use dollar, if they use naira, we know quite well that it's more than the amount permitted by the Money Laundering Act. So, in the first place, you would want to question the role of the anti-graft agencies in really fighting money laundering, especially when it comes to the political scene. Remember that EFCC officials were on ground for both the PDP presidential convention as well as the APC. And we heard reports they were there, but we didn't hear of any arrest. Meanwhile, we knew what happened behind the scenes in terms of delegates being induced financially and all of that. So the Money Laundering Act has not really been pursued in that sense, in terms of 5 million naira limit for individuals, 10 million naira for organizations. Having said that, I think it's quite shameful what happened. We can remember how that lagues was spent on several people enjoyed that. Talking about the Colonel Sambo Dasuki scandal at the time, Amsdale at the time. It wasn't only Okupe who got 200 million. We were hearing of ridiculous amounts of money given to several people. But the judge, I think, was also fingered in that case. A whole lot of them in there. Now, this spells doom on different levels. It depends on how you look at it. Yes, the man is out, bail now, on bail, but you look at it, how does it affect the Peter Obi campaign?
But before we even get to that, because of course that's the ultimate, we have to look at that because that's the present. But looking at this case, we know it started long ago. It didn't just start after he got appointed as the DG of the Obi Datti Campaign Council, but it's been on, and we've looked at the fact that this 200 million naira didn't go to him at once. It was in tranches, I think in 10 million naira, and because it's really not a case of maybe him actually laundering or taking the money in a whole sum. It was a case of him not following the Money Laundering Act, and perhaps that's why the judgment is a bit, tempered. It's a bit light on him. But a lot of people are also saying that if you laundered 200 million naira. Why is the punishment just 13 million naira?
Exactly.
We know that, yes, there's a process to follow, there is a constitution to follow, and the judge had already pronounced the judgment of 500 million naira on each count. But what about the 200 million naira? Where is the money? What has it been used for?
Well,
have we gotten the arms?
Well, I mean, there were talks of the president was the one who gave the directive that it should be issued and, you know, in cash. But the judge still held, or the court still held, that even if the president had given that directive, it still didn't go through, you know, the financial institution, the right process. And that's why he was found guilty of, you know, money laundering on some of those counts that he faced. Having said that, here's what I think. I think over time, you know, we've had this instance where you hear of a governor or an ex-governor, a political office holder, accused of embezzling or misappropriating maybe 100 billion naira, and then you now hear, okay, you'll be released on bail, 2 shots is 500 million naira each. When you look at the fines and all, it's just probably
not commensurate.
It's not even up to 10%. And I'd also have said, that's more of a slap on the wrist. It's not, you know, a full force in terms of punishment. You know, you want the culprit or the suspect, as it were, to face at least to a large extent the brunt of you know, the punishment.
We've seen a lot of cases like this. For instance, Babacho Lawal does the you know the SSA to the SGF to President former President Goodluck Jonathan, also head of the whole Obasanjo's tenure.
No, Buhari.
No, Babacho Lawal.
Yeah,
Buhari.
It was before Mustafa replaced him. The grass cutting scandal.
The grass cutting scandal. So that case is still, you know, that case was swept out of the court also because they said the EFCC didn't have some substantial evidence to back it up. And so it's looking like even our judiciary process is still not as solid as it should be.
Well, again, there are those who tell you that we have the laws in place. The issue is the interpretation. And the beauty about the judiciary is they are the ones who are meant to interpret the laws of the land. The lawmakers, which are the legislative, which is the legislative and will make the laws, the judiciary is expected to interpret. Now, it's in the process of interpreting that we now find out that there's some sort of vacuum that needs to be filled. And that vacuum oftentimes gives room for so many abnormalities. For example, the Imo State's gubernatorial, you know, verdicts by the Supreme Court, which brought in Hope Uzodinma. You know, and when the tally happened, you realize that even had more votes on the basis of Supreme Court's verdict than, you know, what was obtainable, what was on ground. So, and that verdict by Supreme Court brought about, now this is just an illustration, it brought about a division even within the NBA. You had lawyers who said, okay, that was the right verdict. There were those who said, okay, it was technically right, morally wrong, it was this, it was that. You know, you had those divisions.
So there are still cases with interpretation.
Exactly, that's it. You know, it's always about the interpretation. It's not necessarily about the laws. The laws are there. You know, we see oftentimes that we have the laws. It's about the enforcement, the implementation of it. So when it comes to judicial matters, it's about the interpretation. That's where you find out.
And there's also the case of the EFC doing their due diligence.
Due diligence.
For instance, getting all the evidence, ensuring that it goes beyond media trial. You have all of your evidence, facts and figures ready, so that it's not a case of it gets to the court and then the court is saying you do not have substantial evidence to see the case
sometimes you go to court with a airtight case and you think you've dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, this is a given, you're winning this case, and you know the court has a way of coming up with technicalities that are not even of your own doing in terms of wrongs, and you're wondering where is all of this. The ambiguity in technicalities is what we should also try to simplify or demystify. Now, for example, you look at the Supreme Court's judgment during the Adeleke saga at the time, the Osun State gubernatorial elections of 2018, and the Supreme Court ruled on you know, technical grounds. What happened? Appeal court, one of the judges who you know wrote the verdict did not. He missed a sitting. You know, it's like you having 3-4 sittings, and then a judge you know, attends 3 or 4. And because he missed that a particular one, he was the one that wrote it, and then, you know, they nullified it. So we need to also look at all of these technicalities and address them. Sometimes we just Supreme Court will tell you on technical grounds, but the ambiguity within that phrase of technical grounds is what we should try to simplify.
Well,
that's where we can get better. Really.
I know that you know, legal luminaries and you know, the learned people would have more to say on this case.
Definitely.
But let's look at, you know, as you said earlier, the implication of this on the Obi Dati presidential campaign. For instance, we saw Peter Obi coming out to say he's undaunted by the allegations or the court case against his DG. But I think he should actually be daunted. It is not something to be thrown off the, you know, out the window, you know, just like that.
The thing is, I think it's just trying to douse tensions and, you know, put up a strong face like...
Yeah, but you don't douse tension that way, because you have in your front portfolio someone who is against corruption, someone who is fighting corruption, who is coming into office. The
contradiction.
You know, you're raising doubts in the minds of people. If you're saying I'm undaunted, you can be undaunted, but don't say it. Don't make people feel like you really do not care about who leads your campaign. You really do not give 2 cents how the public sees the person who is leading your campaign, because it's very important.
Well, we've heard from the spokesperson of the Presidential Campaign Council, Yunus Atanko, who said that they've received the copies of the verdict, and they'll go through the court's, you know, verdict and form a decision in time. That's also ambiguous, but I understand that that's the necessary...
Some political statements.
It's about, you know, PR control at this point. So it's the right thing to see now. But the question is, how long will it take to review? I mean, how many documents, even if there are 100 documents, how long? There's a legal team, apparently. Is it going to take them 2-3 weeks, a month to go through it and come, you know, form a recommendation or a decision? That's the question that you'll be campaign, will be that presidential campaign.
And I'm even wondering, because the first question that came to my mind when I heard the paid of the 13 million immediately was, really, people have money in Nigeria, honestly.
These are big boys.
We should even start from when they started paying 100 million naira to buy ordinary nomination form that did not guarantee a win. We should have even known that, man, the money is where it is. But this is the same person that was accused of owing membership dues and was sacked in the Ogun State, you know, what's it called, Labour Party, whatever. And now, right now, he's even been expelled. And so we're seeing that this same person is able to pay 13 million naira fine for a court case.
He will tell you he didn't pay. His friends and families
Friends
paid,
and family.
You know.
Okay.
Shorties. Yeah, is what I think. I think for the Obi Dati campaign presidential council, they really need to, you know, address some things. We know quite well that the Labour Party has internal issues too. It's not as pronounced as, you know, PDP, but they have internal issues as well, even down to their leadership, you know, national level. So they need to address those things. Now that this has happened, the question will be, should they get Doyin Okupe off and get someone else?
Actually, I think Doyin Okupe should even do the honorable thing by stepping down.
Why Nigeria? It's rare. It's rare.
Yeah,
it's
but it doesn't mean he will still be prominent in the party.
Well,
the DG, he could, you know, serve in other. He could serve in other, you know, areas.
It depends if they want to go with him. Because here's what I think: if I'm Obi, for example, and you know, I'm putting up a front of, oh, I'm against corruption. I have a clean slate and all of that. I wouldn't want to associate with someone who has been found guilty by court.
Yes, because it was pronounced guilty.
Jurisdiction. So we need to get things clearly. You know, yes, he paid the fine and all of that is out, but he was found guilty.
He's a convict.
It is what it is. So, and this is not just any court, a court of competent jurisdiction. So we should understand that Obi has to make the shots. He is the presidential council. I expect the national, in tandem with the leadership of the Labour Party at the national level, they need to call the shots on this one.
Yeah, and that's why that statement actually is worrisome.
As I said,
saying he's undaunted. He shouldn't have said that.
It was a wrong move from him. What should have happened is the
we're looking into it. He could have said
exactly.
We're looking into
it, you know, with the PR strategy of trying to control the narrative. Oh, we're reviewing the verdict and would make decisions in due time.
I think Obi really needs to be careful because he has the crowd, he has a lot of people who are backing him up. He doesn't want to soil it with just one.
Apparently, he doesn't want to soil it, you know. But again, you also look at it with campaigns. It's not just black and white in that sense for these guys, and the reason is we're just about 10 weeks thereabouts to, you know, the presidential elections. Do you want to change your DG at this time? And let's not forget that yes, as much as he has the masses, they're probably still playing catch up in the northern part of the nation. Southern, yes, you want to say they've made a bit of inroads, not to deny the fact that they've tried, but you still can't compare the inroads that the PDP or APC have made as against what he has made in the northern part of the nation. So you're also being careful because you're working with strategists who are dealing with permutations and numbers, and they're wondering, okay, if you change your DG now, 10 weeks, it's a whole lot, but at the same time, it can also be too short a time. And then who comes on board that will be as formidable and competent? So,
well, you want to weigh your chances. Do you want to lose the allegiance of people who came on board or who are supporting you based on your frontline promise or your
clean image and all of that,
claim of being against corruption? Do you want to lose that demographic of people, or do you want to go clean and just do the right thing?
As I said, it's something he will have to sit down with a strategist and advisors and, you know, come up with solutions, because again, we should understand that all politics is local and personal. For politicians, it's all about the vested interest of getting power, and whatever it is you do to get power, you have to get it in that sense. When you now get it, you can now decide to do away with those you don't do it. I mean, it's how the game has been played over time. So it depends on Obi himself. Will he be willing to take the risk of ditching DG 10 weeks to the elections and getting someone else? I don't know who the person is, if it's someone who probably has been working as an assistant or deputy to Okupe and who is also as competent, you know, in that sense. If that's the case, you may want to go through that long road. If not, you may want to just look for ways to douse it. See, again, it's a difficult decision. Oftentimes, as I said, in politics, when issues arise like this, it's not just black and white. You will have your strategist there, you'd have national leadership, and then there are various voices in his ears. It's not just about him. Yes, he is the front runner, he is the image of the party, but the national leadership has to be consulted. His vice will probably have a say in between, you know, especially if he has great teamwork with him. And then you now have other strategists, political advisors, senior special aides, and all, you know, also giving their own pieces of advice on the basis of how they think the election will play out. It's all about permutations.
But in the end, it needs to do with his public image, especially in the statements he makes, because a lot of things can be determined with that. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more. Please stay with us.